Hey, hello again. I turned it off, turned it back on, I'm back. Number 4, I'm reading on my list of who I am. I wrote this some years ago. I just happened to find it in my podcast thing where I was kind of like trying to figure out who I am. And I've got 8 different podcasts I've created over the last couple decades. You know, like when I was homeless, I created these podcasts trying to think, if I do a podcast, you know, I can do this from my phone. They invented something called Anchor FM, and you could use your phone. It's like, I can do podcasts, because I couldn't do podcasts when I was homeless. So anyway, I was able to do podcasts from my phone. I did like almost 70 podcasts, but I'm still an unknown. Here we go. Let's see if I can become an unknown. Okay, so here we go. I'm on number 4 now of who I am. I'm a recording engineer of the 1970s. Oh, I started this. I said this at the very end, and I didn't elaborate. Okay, during the 1970s, 1974, I was 20 years old, and I became a recording engineer. I took a class at Studio West. Back then, a 16-track studio was the most you could have. The 24s and the 32s happened during that 70s decade. But at that time, in 1974, maybe they were down, but they weren't in San Diego yet. The best studio you could find was a 16-track Stevens, which is a different kind of looping mechanism. They're really revered, and I worked with them later with some producers who. Yeah, I don't know. Again, unfavorable story, so maybe I won't talk about it. But anyway, there's like one producer in particular who used to drag his Stevens to the studio. When I what studio I went to, he always brought his Stevens tape machine, 24-track. But anyway, that's what I was trained on, in 16-track, 2-inch tape. And then I got a job at a local studio. It was only a 4-track because there was only one 16-track studio, I think, in San Diego back then. So all the other studios were 4-track, and maybe there might have been an 8. I recorded at an 8-track about 8 years later. So, 4 years later. So there may have been some 8-tracks I didn't know about. But anyway, 4-track, because I think 8-track was available. But anyway, I was in a 4-track studio, which I did commercials for radios and things like that, little jingles, they'd call them, and sound bites and things like that. So that was the bread and butter of the studio. But of course, I wanted to produce records, so I was inviting bands in and trying to get bands in and to come in, and I was hiring session musicians. I found a bunch of session players, which is a whole story in itself because some of them were with me for over 10 years, and and one of them moved up to LA and was even in a band with me. He's Richard Augustine. He's on the Temptation album. He's only on one song, unfortunately. In fact, I made sure he was on the album because he's gone now. But such a wonderful person. So, I mean, my musical life has been not just the artistry, it's been the people I've worked with. And some of the people I've worked with have just been incredible people, which is why it's so sad that now, as I'm watching all the news and the P Daddy scandals going up, or P Diddy, when I've never actually... I might have listened to a rap song or two. I've got the Compton album. That's got some rap songs on it. I enjoy the songs on the album. But no, other than that, I've never listened to a rap song other than when I was forced to because people turned it up too loud. And then it annoys me even more. So I'm not a rap fan. But that's a whole other story in itself because I got a whole anti-rap album in which I actually did heavy metal rap. 9 years ago, I made an anti-rap album. But anyway, let's stay on topic here. We're on the Kung Fu Cowboy podcast right now. Buddha Z is the Buddhist rapper. I call it, I've got a whole bunch of names for it. Kick hop, I like kick hop, for my Buddha Z stuff. I'm a Kung Fu guy. But anyway, the whole story on the recording engineer, I don't know how much to tell you. I've got another podcast, the Shaolin Records company, so I could talk more about the technology and the things that I did, what I did, and how I really did some incredible stuff in the music business back in the 70s. Ended up working, of course, for Frank Zappa and Fleetwood Mac and stuff, in 78 and 79. But anyway, where were we? Oh, and then the Coyote in a Graveyard rock opera. That's where I got a little bit of fame because Michael J. Fox had that TV show going, and he was about to make his first movie, which was called Back to the Future, I think, right? And I didn't know anything. I didn't even know about him as a TV star because I had a ban on television. From the moment I moved to LA in 1978, I banned televisions from my house. None of my roommates, musicians, nobody's allowed to bring a television in, because I thought televisions were just a brain drain. You know, they waste your life, they waste your time, and they fill you up with nonsense. If you're not going to get smarter or benefit, no. So I never allowed televisions in my house for, I don't know, 15, 20 years. 20 years? No television in my house. Never. So anyway, that's why I got all those music and stuff and poetry, is because, you know, rather than watching a TV show, write a song, practice my guitar, my flute. Okay, where was I? Oh yeah, he was practicing. He was going to do that movie, and so he sent a note up on stage, and he said, "I'm Michael J. Fox. Can I come up and jam with you?" And I looked at him and I passed it over to the keyboard player. He looked at it. "Oh, he's on a TV show. He's real famous. Yeah, you can come up." And I go. And the guitar player, I guess, knew who he was, because when he came up, he borrowed the guitar player's Telecaster, you know, to perform. So the guitar had to sit back, and he wanted to play Johnny Be Good, because of course it was in the movie. Of course, I didn't know any of this, but I didn't know who he was. So he's up there, and we jam along. We play Johnny Be Good, and then it was fun. And I asked him, "Hey, why did you want to do that?" And because I was told he was an actor. He goes, "Oh, I wanted to feel what it was like to play in front of an audience, because I'm going to record this. I'm going to play this song in a movie. So I wanted to kind of experience what it's like to have an audience to play this song." Oh, okay. And so we became friends. And he wanted to keep performing with us, but once the press got a wind of it, they were all there, and he wasn't really prepared. He's not that great a guitar player or anything, so he was too shy. And so he kind of bowed out a couple of times when he was going to come by, because the press was bugging him. So he didn't. But he invited me to the set. And so I used to go to Universal Studios and watch him tape his show. And then it turned out another friend of mine, because this is later, this is like 84 and 85, or 85 and 86, and 84, 85, in that window there. It turned out that one of my school buddies, because I was going to UCLA Film School at the time also, and one of my buddies, it turns out, worked on The Jeffersons. And The Jeffersons was before or after his show. Half a dozen times I went there. I think it was after. And they would tape his show, and then he would go clean up, and I'd hang out with my friend a little bit, and then he and I'd go get something to eat or whatever. But it was just fun being there, and I liked hanging around Universal Studios. Everybody thought I was a movie star or something like that. In fact, I looked a little like Goldblum or whatever it is, Jeff Goldblum or something. He's a little taller than I am, but back then I looked like him. And so a lot of people mistaked me for him, and it was kind of funny. But especially when the girls mistake me for him, then they'd be real nice. But where were we? I designed and built recording studios for Fleetwood Mac, Frank Zappa, and worked as a session bassist, trained by Tim Bogert. All right, let's finish on this story, and then I'll come back for the next podcast. This one, there's a lot to unpack here. I mean, I got hours of stories. I'm just trying to, like I said, just get some interest in here, get some people to say, "Hey, I really like to know more about your life." I'd like to know more about my life. I got a great life. It's fun to remember. But anyway, okay, I'm building recording studios. Back to San Diego. When I was working in that 4-track, I had worked as a carpenter. We got stories about that. I built a boat and stuff like that. And my dad tried to get me a job, and it was as a laborer, you know, carrying wood. But anyway, I knew some carpentry. And I remodeled the studio. I said, "Hey, you know, this is, you know, a studio. I can enlarge this and make it, you know," because having been in a professional studios, I was kind of starting to get aware of what our limitations were. And I said, "Let me knock out this, and I'll build a bass trap, and I'll do this." And so anyway, I remodeled that studio, and everybody in San Diego heard about it. I think I worked for 4 studios, and there was only 5 in town. All 4 said, "Hey, you got to come remodel our studio." So I went and I'd build this, I'd build that, and I did this. So everybody could say that their studio was remodeled by me. I had kind of, I guess, a reputation. We're talking 1974. 75, 76. I left in 78. So 75, 74, 75, 76. That was my little window there in the studio world of San Diego. So anyway, let's see. So what else can I elaborate on that one? I'll let you go. Oh, I worked for Fleetwood Mac. So I was actually down here, and they heard about me in Los Angeles. That's how big my reputation was as a studio designer. And, you know, anyway, I had some qualifications, and everybody was really happy with my work. So I was a studio designer. Wasn't my ambition. It's not what I wanted to do, but I kind of just fell into it. So anyway, they heard about me and the Beach Boys, and they sold their studio to Tom Scott, who was the recording engineer. I don't think he was a producer, recording engineer of the Monkees, Frank Sinatra. He worked for RCA Records. So basically all the RCA Records studio artists for 20, 30 years were done by Hank Sicalo. Now, another famous person at that time was Tom Scott, and he's a famous trumpet player, session player. And so Hank Sicalo and Tom Scott bought the Beach Boys recording studio, and then they heard about me in San Diego, and they hired me to come up and help remodel the studio. Well, they also had, of course, some other, the highest level, Rudy Brewer, I think was his name, back in the 70s and 80s. And he was kind of like the pinnacle of the market. Of course, he charged pinnacle prices of studio remodeling. So a lot of the times he would do the overall job, but then they would hire me to do certain things, which pissed him off. I'd build the console, I'd build little things and run, roll around cabinets and things like that. I'd build carpentry things. He would do the overall big remodeling, and then they'd bring me in as a cheaper way to get a lot of the other stuff done. Inexpensive, that'd be a better word. So anyway, they called me up and I remodeled the Beach Boys studio. In fact, for years and years, I was carrying around the original Beach Boys stuff. I had like a big, huge mirror that they had in the studio. I had a couple of cabinets. I had this. I had all kinds of stuff that they were going to throw in the trash. And I said, well, I would just moved to LA to do this job. And so I needed furniture. So I carried that stuff around for years. The last cabinet I gave away, I was putting it out on the street because I couldn't keep it. I was actually, when I became homeless in 2011, and I had to really limit my storage down. And I put it out in the street, and there was a kid walking by. I go, hey, I told him the story. I said, you got to, if you could appreciate this, nobody's going to know what this is because it looks like a boat. All of their cabinetry in the Beach Boys studio is made to look like a Spanish galleon. Really, it was really archaic. It looked like it was like 400 years old. All of the wood style of their thing was like an old boat, not a new boat, but an old boat. And that was the Beach Boys studio. So anyway, they obviously didn't want to continue that when they bought the studio, so they wanted to throw out all the Beach Boys furniture. So I got a lot of that. Anyway, let's go on. So anyway, when I was there, but this story leans into the next one. And guys, this is as far as I can get today. When I was recording in the Beach Boys studio, then of course, or remodeling it, then the other studios started to find out, and they started coming and checking me out and introducing my stuff. So now I'm kind of famous. I've got all these recording studios. So then the Village Recorder, which is where Fleetwood Mac recorded Tusk, Frank Zappa recorded Chic Your Booty, Supertramp recorded Breakfast in America. I think those are like the most famous ones that I can remember that were there when I was on staff for like a year and a half. And it was a big news too, because Mix Magazine was the real magazine of recording industry worldwide. And they were so proud of having this that they put it in their magazine that they were the only studio in the world to have a carpenter on staff. And they kept me busy, and they'd farm me out. And so when Fleetwood Mac would want to remodel his home, in fact, I was in charge of that. It was a one-man job. Actually, I hired a bunch of friends. I didn't even remember, but my brother said he even came in and helped me. I didn't remember that. But I would hire all kinds of people to help me when I could to make it go a little faster. But otherwise, I could do almost everything myself. So anyway, I built the whole rehearsal room for Fleetwood Mac in his home up there, and I got all kinds of stories and hung out with Stevie Nicks quite a bit. And then Frank Zappa, when he moved his studio, when he finished Chic Your Booty, I was there during all that recording. When he wanted to have his home studio, I helped him build his home studio. And when you look at some of that equipment in the studio, I built it. I did some of the wood trims on the wall, and I built that rolling thing with all the rack mounts in it, and and all kinds of other stuff. And I'd build console editions. They'd have a console, and then they'd want to have a producer's desk. And so I'd build a producer's desk, and I'd match the console, and lay for mic on it or whatever they wanted. And I built. Okay, I got stories. I built back then we're talking the late 70s and early 80s. There was this one video studio I built. Oh, I got horror stories about building it. It came out beautiful, but we were using Cocobolo. I'd never used Cocobolo, and Cocobolo, it turns out, is toxic. And It was horrid. We'd be barfing if we cut it too fast or too slow, and we had any smoke. We'd have to evacuate the building because you breathe that smoke and you start barfing. But anyway, I built that thing. But the reason I say the Coke is this producer, the owner of it, he says, "Well, you got to build me all kinds of little secret stash holes." So I even got a book on it on Chinese things and try to build them some little stash places, with like spring levers. You couldn't see them, where they were. And then, but you push on it, boom, it'd pop open in there. You'd keep his little Coke things. I've never been a cokehead. In fact, I don't have an affinity for it, which maybe saved me from it, but I'm just not a drug addict. Well, pot. I've been doing pot since 1966, and I'd be smoking it now if I could afford it or I had any, but the only reason I'm not smoking is just because I can't. But anyway, I still think pot's cool. But then where were we? Oh yeah, got all these stories now. Where were we? We're back at the, I'm not going to tell you. We're already 15 minutes. I'm trying to keep them at 15 minutes, these podcasts. So although a lot of people do huge, long podcasts, and I guess I could. I can spend a couple hours on this, but let's just leave it at this, and I'll see you back for another like 15 minutes later. I'm looking at my selfie. I'm doing this on my iPhone 11. At 1080p, okay? I could do it at 4K, but who cares? So 1080p. And the storage at 4K is it's astronomical. It's huge stuff, files. I'm shooting my music videos, of course, in 4K. And I shot a movie last year. Oh, yeah, I got stories to tell you. I'm trying to catch up to where I am. I shot an entire movie, which we're editing, and the editor says he's going to have it done in the next week or two. So I want to kind of catch up so I can start promoting my new stuff. So let's see if I can catch up and tell you all the singles I've been releasing for the last few years of the Kung Fu Cowboy and what's going on. And then I'll stay current to what I'm doing. And I think that'll be even more exciting, But let's catch up to where I am. Until then, until our next podcast, which I'll probably start in the next 2 minutes. Go get it, take a break, but then I'll be right back. All right. I don't even know what to post these. Daily? Weekly? I don't know. If I make them short enough, I can make them daily. But one more time, just for the fun of it. Here we go. Kung Fu Cowboy number 3. I've got videos on YouTube, not many views. I've been posting poetry and playing songs on my flute. I've got TikTok playing my rock. Oh, made a mistake. One more time. I've got, well, maybe I can fix my collar here, huh? Be a little more presentable. Here we go. I've got videos on YouTube, not many views. I've been posting poetry and playing songs on my flute. I've got TikTok playing my rock. My songs are too long. It seems that more than 10 seconds get swiped and then I'm gone. So if I speed up what I do, will you lend me your ear? I don't have cute legs or big boobs or a big rear, so I'll wrap up my video. Give me a chance. I'll even write you a song that you can dance. I am the Kung Fu Cowboy. Give me a like, a share if you enjoy my classic rock and blues music songs. I'll share some stories and one of my bongs. Yeah, Kung Fu Cowboy. I'm having fun playing music I enjoy. Kung Fu Cowboy. I'm having fun playing music I enjoy.
All written by me.